Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 72 of the Puck Pod by BD Sports. This is going to be a really interesting episode coming off of the last one. But before we get into the hockey talk, we've got some new guy here in the bottom of this video, or if you're listening, a third voice. Who the hell is this guy?
Who am I? That's a good question. My name is
Who
Bryan
are
Long.
you?
I used to be a regular here. Now I'm not because of unforeseen circumstances from my educational
Totally
institution.
unforeseen.
I mean, I don't know if they were
Pretty foreseen,
unforeseen,
man.
but
Okay, well, okay, I did my best
paid
up until
for it.
I did my best up until the point I couldn't, and then
Yeah.
like there was a point where I was just like, oh my god, I have no time. And then these guys took over. These guys did well. They had a lot of fun without me apparently, and now I'm
Well, I
back.
mean, listen, we had some fun, but whenever the three of us get together is when we have the most fun, I would say.
This is true. This is true.
I agree. I agree. But well done. Congratulations to you guys for you know, mantling the beast. Meanwhile, I just sat at home studying for like 2 months straight, and I still did really bad at all my exams.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah, I know which one I would rather been doing, staying at
yeah,
home versus this. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll take our end of the other deal. Okay. I think we can skip over our weeks because at least for me, Dave, it's been a couple days. For Brian, it's been 3 months. So
True.
we'll get that out of the way. We'll get right into what we're here for. Guys, the Maple Leafs have tied the series with. I'm gonna use the same term as I did last time because it really is the Boston DejaBRUINS here. Jesus Christ, it's a 3-3 series. We're going to
Can
Game 7.
can I
Uh,
name this pod Deja Bruins Part 2 because I named
yeah, I
Deja
think.
Bruins for
You
the
might
last episode.
you
Yeah.
might be able to do it a third time because this kind of smells like last year all over again.
I
Oh
mean, yeah,
man.
it could smell like last year. It could smell like 2019. It could smell like 2013. Like it could smell a couple different ways. So
Yeah.
we gotta get into obviously all of that. Last time me and Dave spoke, it was 3-1 Leafs. Sorry, 3-1 Bruins. And we basically did the post-mortem before the Leafs in our minds thought we're going down 6 feet under. This is basically like an Easter Sunday here on this Friday because they've
Yeah.
risen from the dead a couple days later. So how the hell did they do it? I think we got to start with last night, and we can reminisce on Game 5 when we have to. But Leafs obviously win 2-1 last night. Could have been 2-0, but zero point 0.1
It was
seconds left.
it was
The
2-0.
Bruins score. It,
Wait,
it
what? They
wasn't two
counted that?
nothing. Yeah, they
Yeah.
counted that. They counted it.
They
They looked back
did
at it. It did
point
cross the
one
line.
second, bro. It went
Yeah,
over.
Morgan Geeky. Yeah. So 2-1. Also 2-1 in Game 5 in overtime. But last night, off the backs of two William Nylander goals, the Maple Leafs pull out the win. How the hell did they do it, Dave?
Well, I mean, you mentioned game five. I think game five and game six, they kind of go hand in hand. They kind of played the exact same style for the most part. It was a lot of chipping the puck deep and hard forecheck. Like I don't maybe not since that Tampa series have I seen this team forecheck as hard as they have over the past two games. Over the past six periods, they've forechecked the most that I've ever seen them forecheck. Everybody like I don't even know like who to start with. I guess the first guy that sticks out in my head on the forecheck, especially, is Matthew Nyes. Two straight games of him just using his body. The guy has been as advertised, probably as advertised and then some. Like he has stepped in as a 21-year-old, even 20-year-old last year. Like he's made such an impact in that top six. It's genuinely unbelievable to see. Another guy who's just been just electric on offense. Maybe probably doesn't play that exact same style, like that dump and chase type of style. But man, story of last night has to be William Nylander, dude. What a performance from him. He even I don't know if you guys caught it. He laid out, I forget who it was. Was it Brandon Carlo?
Oh, I don't think it was Carlo. It was in
Was
our
it a
zone
Ford?
there. It was on the right. I feel like it must have been a forward because I don't know how like defenseman have been caught that deep in our zone on like a
Yeah.
It was like it was a dump and change. So I don't know who it was.
Dude, he caught somebody clean. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, if Willie starts doing
I had to
that,
point
like
that out to my dad. I was
if
like, because
he
he
does
didn't
that,
react. I'm like, you see how that was there?
yeah,
Yeah.
dude, do that like once every like 2 or 3 games, dude. Like I don't need to see that from Willie every single game. I'd like it, but I know it's never gonna happen. But dude, 2 or 3 games, just use that. The guy is so jacked. He is
Yes.
humongous. He may not look it on the ice because he's literally on the ice with mutants, but like he's got some
He's an
weight behind him.
Adonis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he
Yeah.
definitely has some weight behind him.
You know what's funny? Okay, this is like totally off track, but the moment
Uh,
I realized how jacked William Nylander was, this
yeah.
is such like a specific thing to bring up, but
Are you gonna say
during his
prosciutto
contract,
time? Oh,
no,
okay.
like okay, his
The holdout.
contract negotiation during the holdout, okay,
Okay.
we had the videos surfacing like as the negotiations were getting deeper. Like this is like late November because he had to sign. I think it was December 1st, right, by 5 p.m. So it must have been like late November, and we start getting videos of him training with like some Swedish team. And maybe it was because like these guys weren't NHLers, but like he looked like a Hulk amongst men. Like he looked like goddamn Thor. But I honestly think he jacked up like during that
Even
holdout.
more, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. Ever since then, I looked at him like differently. Yeah.
Well, dude, the
Um,
guy literally practices like tarps off like half the time. He'll
yeah,
anytime that guy's doing a post game interview, even pre-game, the guy's going tarps off. Like he just wants to show off his
yeah.
body, which
It's him
like
and
good for
David
him,
Kemp
dude.
in
Yeah.
the race for most jacked dude. Maybe Matthew Nyes is in there too, but
Oh,
he's just a wide, thick dude. He's just
yeah.
yeah.
But
I think that
So
even without just the hits, like I would say his all around play tonight, he looked engaged, he looked focused, and you could say the same for a lot of people on the team, or I would say for the most part, most of the team. But there's 1 or 2 that we could get into after who
yeah,
I feel like didn't elevate their game to the next level, and we could definitely talk about that after. I mean, they got the win, so it's not like they got the loss, so we
yeah,
don't have to rain on the negative right now, but it's worth
yeah.
noting.
Okay,
I think that's the
couple
mindset.
things. Yeah,
What's up,
couple
Bryan?
things.
I think that's the mindset that like he just embodies, and that's how you guys got through last night. He put the team on the back. Like, what did he say to Marner the game before? Like, shut the hell
Stop
up or
effing
something. Like,
crying, bro. We know
like
it was stop effing crying, bro. And then the assumption is that he said this isn't Junior.
This is what I love
that
talking.
first part right there is the entire just embodies like his nature, and I
Yeah.
think that he really showed it off that last night, and that's how you guys got through. I mean, a random wrist shot from the point that goes top corner, and then a silky breakaway move, beautiful.
So a couple things on Willie. As great of a game he played last night, I think there's still so much more to his game that he could still be bringing, and he's trending upwards in that respect. He definitely looked better than he has in the past month, but I don't think he was at the dominance level of dominance that we saw in the first half of this regular season. So I think there's still more to give there, just in terms of powerful skating through the neutral zone, stuff looking like it's just so easy for him in that respect. Obviously, great game for him. And then the other thing with Willie, he had I think it was a broadcast that I want to say on TNT before the game, between the benches where he basically said, we just got to F and play our game. Like, just like typical Willie stuff where he just like, he doesn't even remember that he's on TV, that he can't score or whatever. Just like, he's so just aloof. And it's so great for like to be that way in this market. In the post game, he was basically saying, somebody asked him about game sevens and their history in game sevens. And he's like, yeah, well, game sevens obviously like really exciting. And I don't know if we've won one yet. So we got to do that. It's like he questioned if he even knew whether the Leafs have won a game seven. Like, that's not in your mind. You don't know that stat. He knows that stat. But anyways, yeah, Willie's demeanor is obviously awesome. I got a question for you guys. Do you either of you remember Dave's Leaf related prediction at the beginning of the season? I hope
Joseph
Dave
Woll.
remembers, but yeah,
I don't
Joseph
remember.
Wall.
Oh
Joseph Wall
yeah.
is going to be the starter by the end of the season. So here, I'm
In
gonna
a,
Dave. I'm
in
gonna,
a
but wait,
come around way, yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna break you down so I can
Okay.
build you back up here.
Do
So
it.
let me break you down.
Do it.
When you came with that take, I think a lot of people had come to the realization that Wall could be that guy, right? But
Mhm.
you had obviously you'd been on that from forget like the start of this season. We were talking about that like in the middle of last season as well.
Yeah.
Like I remember
I
us
would say
having that
since last season.
conversation.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So you were ahead of the curve, and then you laid your stamp down at the beginning of the year. And like you said, in a roundabout way, by the end of the regular season, wasn't the starter, but it's still the end of the season here. He's found his way into the starter's crease. How the
Yeah,
hell was he last night? And really,
I
like
mean,
basically since he's taken the crease in the series.
listen, when I put out that prediction, um, in my head, that wasn't like the way that it's transpired isn't the way that I would have drawn it up 100%.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
full
that's a
I'll
good way
be
to put
full
it.
honest. I thought by game 82 he would have made a stamp down, but I couldn't foresee, him going down with a high ankle sprain for, was it like 3 months, I think. And even Sammy playing to the level that he was, because I knew Sammy was a great player. I wasn't sure if, especially at the beginning of the season, if he could get up to the levels that he was even hitting last year. And there was a big stretch um before he got sent down where it didn't even look like he could even get back up to league average or like an average goaltender. He looked
We were
beyond
questioning
cooked.
his future as an NHL goalie,
Yes,
right?
yeah, 100%. Um in a roundabout way though, yeah, by the end of the year, sure, if I'd like to think that my prediction came true. And the big reason why I just, from what I've seen from him in his limited game time, he is he is so opposite to the, at least the past two starting goaltenders. I don't know how far back we want to go, but he is so different in style that to the past two goaltenders that the Leafs have had. That being Ilya Samsonov, like we just said. I say past. I'm already kind of putting Sammy on the chopping block. Barring something drastic, like it looks like he will be, and Jack Campbell, who's not in the NHL currently, right? Stylistically, to me, Joseph Wall just looks so composed. I think that's the biggest thing about his game. It's that ice in the vein complex that he gives when he's on the ice. He brings like a calming presence. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but every time that he's in net, I am not worried about, you know, last night, for example. The Bruins must have shot in a dozen to 20 just pot shots from the point, looking for some tips. If Sammy was in net, I'd be gripping my chair. I'd be like tearing out the stuffing in my pillows because I'm like, Sammy's gonna, take a stride to the right, and this thing is going right past him. He's not seeing this. But for Walt, for whatever reason, it looks like his positioning is just always intact. So even when there's a dangerous tip coming in, it looks like he's always at least in position enough to get a piece of it. Even if he's not getting the whole puck like into his chest or whatever, it looks like he's in a position where he can just, at least he makes himself, like he gives himself the ability to make the save. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but that's how I see Joseph Wall.
I definitely feel the same way. Can I throw out a comparable for you?
Go right ahead.
You know what Joseph Wall reminds me of?
Go.
Jeremy Swayman. That's what he
Yeah.
reminds me of, right?
Yeah. Yeah. To an
Yeah,
extent.
they look
Yeah.
yeah, they've looked very like evenly matched in the past couple games. Brian, I'm curious from your perspective, was Joe Wall ever like on your radar like as a US goalie? Because I know obviously you paid the most attention to those guys. Like, and he started for the World Junior team. Like, did you ever look at him in the same respect as like Spencer Knight, who the other guys would have been like Ottinger?
Mhm.
Like, was he ever like that echelon for you as a prospect?
No, but no,
Excellent.
not at all. But I will say this. He reminds me of 2013 Braden Holtby. And if you know the story of how
Okay.
that goes, it's very, very interesting. It's very good. Similar story. Volkun gets hurt. Neuberth gets hurt. We have no goalies. So we call up Holtby, and all of a sudden this guy's just standing heads and tails, saving everything sporadically. And the main thing is he's not crapping his pants. And I feel like
Yeah.
I get the same like look at Wool when I see him play. The difference between him and Samsonov, from what I've seen, is that he's just not crapping himself in high pressure situations. He's not letting the atmosphere get into him. He's not letting the noise get to him. Just standing sturdy, insane, and which is just what you guys need.
It's funny because I would have told you that goaltending wasn't the difference when this series was 2-1 Boston. I would have said Sammy isn't the problem here. Like it was our 5-on-5 play, it was our power play, obviously. It was like being undisciplined, stuff like that. I would have said goaltending is very low on the priority list for things that need to change for us to beat the Bruins. And then you throw in Joseph Wall, and it's like, what kind of delusionary world was I living in to think that goaltending wasn't the difference?
Well, so I don't think that's an unfair statement. Like, I think two things can be true, right? I don't think
Yes,
Joseph Wall
yeah,
deserved a spot, like deserved the starting spot in game one, right? Even until like, game three, game four was when he got put in. Even in game three, like, the Leafs are down 2-1 going into game four. Even still, I'm like, well, obviously Sammy's going to play. And you know why? Because Joe Wall, down the stretch had his opportunities and he kind of let
against
them,
the Boston Bruins a couple times too.
yeah, and he let them slip right by, right? Which is fair. The guy is 21 years old. Like, he's not
Oh,
the
Wall?
start.
No, no, no.
I
I
think
don't think Wall's. He's young,
24.
but I think he's
Oh,
24. Yeah,
is he
yeah,
older? Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm thinking of,
Getting
I'm
confused
thinking
with
of Nyes.
Nyes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nyes is
yeah,
21.
yeah.
Okay, regardless, I mean, I'm gonna say this knowing full well that Ilya Samsonov is only a full year older than him. But in context of the NHL, Samsonov is more of like a vet, let's say, just because I think
Yeah,
he just has more games under him than Wall does, right? Like,
We gave him chances. Trust me.
yeah, yeah. I think he's still a fine goaltender. I really do. I think when he's dialed, he is a great goaltender. I don't think in this market in particular, like where every move is scrutinized, it's probably the best situation for him, even though he has some limited success here. I think that was the
He's
ceiling for him. He needs to go to some place like,
he's a 920 goalie in like Colorado or Minnesota or Winnipeg or
dude, you're telling me if that guy doesn't go to like the Utah Coyote, okay, maybe not next year, whatever the Utah team is, but dude, even a place like Columbus, where Columbus just needs some sort of goaltending, there's not as many eyes on you there. He could put up a 9-10 in Columbus and coast. Like, it's fine. I think, yeah, the high pressure, like the high pressure certainly gets to him, and it's something that it's hard to come by with Joe Wall, right? Like, there's very few goaltenders right now who don't let the pressures get to them. And that's why it's so hard to find them. You know who's got one? Boston. They've got Jeremy
yeah,
Swayman. Yeah, to an extent they have. I would say they have 1.5 because I think out of the two of them, Allmark definitely lets the pressures get to him. Even though it's like very limited experience, I think it definitely gets to him more than Jeremy Swayman. Um, but man, like I don't know. We're not even talking about Joe Wall's performance last night. I
yeah.
thought Joe Wall. A lot of people are like Joe Wall stood on his head, and I don't think that's fair to say because I don't think the Boston Bruins were really giving him too much to work with to an extent. Like, I've seen Boston play at their best. Boston at their best puts up lethal chances. This team last night did not look like over the past two games did not look like the same Boston team. Like that the Boston team that came into the series in game one looks night and day different to what we saw over the past two games. And that's not
No, 100%.
discrediting Joe Wall. When he's had to step up, he has stepped up. And that was the biggest difference maker between games 1 to 4 and games 5 and 6, right? Sammy
I,
couldn't step up in those moments where he was relied upon, and Joe Wall is.
I was just looking at like chances of like looking at the opportunities that they had. I mean, look at game 5. You guys were boxed out completely. Meanwhile, I think last game they maybe had one shot up until the 10th minute of the first period.
Yeah, so in the past two first periods combined, Boston has 3 shots total. In game 5, they had 2 shots. And then last night they had 1 shot that ties the NHL record for least amount of shots in a period. And a playoff game, I think it is. Yeah. So and that ties the record set by the Leafs, of course. So yeah, listen, they've had 2 identical crappy starts, the Bruins have. Um on the wall front and like the Bruins' chances and how quality they are. Yeah, they haven't been like cross crease pass to Pasta sitting alone in the left circle, wiring run up top, and Wallace to come across and make the larceny save. Hasn't been those, but I think he's had to fight through screens,
Yeah.
sometimes by his own players because they're trying to block shots galore, which they have. And he's also like had a lot of scrambly saves where the puck is just somewhere in front of the net and it's just chaos, right? I think those are hard saves too. They don't look as pretty, but I think they're tough saves. So I'll give him credit on those types of things there too. Okay, last night we entered the game with a different lineup. Keefe decided to take out Reeves, put in Gregor, and basically the fourth line became the third line, and vice versa. What do you think about that decision? Would you keep the same lineup for Game 7?
Well, I don't know if I said it to you. After game 3, was that game 3 was one where yes, because I was out for game 3. That was probably peak Ryan Reeves that game, where he was just trucking anything in sight. Game 4, he definitely started to look more like Ryan Reeves of the beginning of the season than Ryan Reeves of the end of the season, right? I don't think it was unfair to put Gregor in that position, getting some getting some speed in there because I think they have looked a bit slow at times. And I thought for the most part Gregor did well.
He was
Let's
Gregor.
say
He was
he was
whatever.
fine. Like
He
I think he had a chance, maybe like half a chance. Yeah, I mean,
think it was like early in the game, yeah. I because look,
yeah,
you couldn't play that line how they played it last night if you put Reeves on it. Like if you had
no,
Reeves with Holberg and Robertson,
mm-mm.
that doesn't work. And you couldn't play a Doer Camp
Yes.
Yarncroke that
So
same way when Reeves
so
was on it.
to that point, that line was
Yeah.
fantastic.
And I bet you Keith loves that line too.
They were the
That's his
checking line.
defensive. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that
Yeah.
line was all worldly, all defense, dude. Like no
Yeah.
offense. There was relatively
Punt
none.
line.
Yeah.
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 That
There
was
was
like ready to go Parland home and like I
yeah.
don't know. I'm trying to think of another
Just walk it. I don't
forward.
think
Just
either of
punt
those
line.
guys were as good as those 3
You
were
know, yeah, no. I'm
yesterday.
just
Yeah,
saying, yeah,
like
yeah. Nothing happens when those 3 guys are on the
which is
ice, and that's
fine.
exactly how Keith wants it.
In
Yes, exactly, which is fine. I will
in a tight
say,
game like that, that
yeah,
is what
yeah.
you need. That is what
I
you
got
need.
I got overly excited to see that line put together, because it gives me hope that next year that could be a full time thing. Because I had always questioned if Yarncroke would be not willing, but listen, you signed him at 2.1 million to be like a third line shooter, right? 20 goals, 15, 20 goal scorer, 40 points. Would he be okay with like a role on the fourth line, just checking? And I'm happy to see that it worked out last night because I think that might be a
See,
long-term solution.
and I don't even think that that's like the fourth line. Maybe that is the
You're right. Yeah,
fourth
yeah,
line that you throw out.
yeah,
I think lines 3 and 4 are kind of like interchangeable. The
yeah.
same way that I
We
kind of
might have 2 3.5s, right? It's not a
yes.
third and a fourth. It's a two
Yeah.
3.5s.
It
Yeah,
is it is definitely slightly more high end than a fourth line, but it's definitely not
yeah,
a high end third line by
yeah,
also any stretch of the imagination, which I guess for the resources that we have currently, that's probably the best that we can get. But in a series like this, something like especially in back-to-back games, especially last night where it's literally 0-0 going into the last couple minutes of the second period. So it's scoreless through 38 minutes. That line, the Yarncrow Camp Doer line, the dude
yeah,
I was
yeah.
watching
Doers,
JD
dudes.
Bunkus, Doers dudes, like that. Those 3 guys are who you need to
Yeah,
not even like because they're not going to score. They're not breaking that deadlock, But at the very least, when those guys are on, they are not breaking the deadlock in the bad, like for a bad
Yeah,
reason,
yeah.
basically, right? So it
Um,
was, yeah, great game
J-
from them.
uh, JD Bunkis and Sam McKee, they used to do this with Justin Hall too. Used to be Hall's Dolls.
Calls
I have a nomination for a new one here. I am now taking applications to join Holmberg's Homies
Holmberg,
because
homies.
yeah, Holmberg's Homies. Bro, I think if you had to poll Boston fans right now, like who are your most hated Maple Leafs, I think Holmberg's like on the podium,
It's got to
especially
be
after last night.
like Domi's up there, Bert's up there, but
Yeah,
Holmie's definitely making a run
that's
for
what I'm saying. He's maybe it's
nomination.
like
Yeah,
maybe Joe Wall gets in there now just because of like spiteful hate of how good he's been. But
yeah.
in the past two games, I don't know if Brian's seen either of these clips, but Pontus Holmberg in game five, wrestling with Brad Marchand throughout the zone because he kind of initiated that contact there, at least in the right face-off dot,
Yeah.
brought him down. They get
Separated.
disconnected, meet up again in the other circle, and you end up with a 4-on-4. So it
And
was
I think in the other circle where it
yeah,
counted, I think
yeah,
Brad initiates it
yes,
because I don't think the second one was Holmberg. I think that red miss Brad Marchand, who's like,
yeah,
oh, this guy just wrestled me down in the other faceoff dot. Let me do it
yeah.
again. And you know what happens? They
We
call
get the
both of
most
them,
beautiful,
which
yeah, yeah.
which
We
is
also get the
fine
most
by
beautiful
me.
moment of
Oh
maybe the
yeah,
series where
that too.
Brian Marchand gets tackled by a ref because he thinks it's a leaf and he's trying to dive and he's like, "Get the F off of me," right?
Thank
He does one
God,
of those, and then it
dude.
gets turned into art. Did you guys see the sports
Yeah.
foot art thing?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's like the
incredible.
painting from like 18, like the
It's like it's a
1700s or something like
Renaissance
that. It's a
painting. I
Renaissance
love it.
painting.
Yeah,
That's a
I,
really
I
good
really
one.
hope there's more of those to come out of this series because that was really really good. So,
We'll send. I'll
yeah,
send you that one, Brian. I think I have it saved. Like I'm not gonna
it's
lie,
a
it's
it's a
really
really
funny.
good one. It's a really good. So we've seen Pontus Holmberg kind of become a little bit Brad Marchand in that
Yeah,
game, and
especially
then
last
last
night.
night, yeah, last night he's in a little bit of not a tussle. It's a board battle really with Mason Lowry in the end of the second period, um, and Lowry's holding his stick, and Holmberg gives him one shove. Lowry still holds the stick, gives him a bigger shove, and he goes into the boards. And I'm guaranteeing you, a lot of Bruins fans, not guaranteeing, we know it. A lot of Bruins fans have been complaining about the non-call there, because it did directly lead to a goal, right? That you end up with an icing on that play, comes back into their zone. William Nylander scores with a couple minutes left in the second period. So
Yeah,
Pontus Holmberg with an incredible Brad Marchand impression. Holmberg's homies join up.
like okay, is it fair to say, regardless of like that's a board's a board. If they were calling the game, is that also not offsetting calls, like holding the stick plus a board?
I think it was.
I think
it
they
was a
would
two-minute
have they
felony
would have
personally.
called they would have called the 2 minutes. In my
Yeah,
mind, in my head, I'm like, that's
because
offsetting calls right there.
I also think that was the second good whistle we got in that game. I had mentioned in one of our chats with Dave that we got a good whistle in the first period to me on the Brad Marchand penalty. I think it was his was it his first minor of the series? It might have been his first penalty of the series on Bertuzzi there. They were backtracking in the leave zone,
His
and
no,
Brad
wouldn't it have
kind
been
of
last game against Holmberg? Is that not counted?
no, I'm not
You're
not no
saying
no.
like
It was
like
definitely last
where
night.
he
It
gets
was
like it's not an offsetting call, like he gets
it was
called for
we got a
doing
power play out
stupid
of it.
shit.
Well, no. So we got a power play out of this, and Marchand, I think honestly, it shouldn't have been a penalty. We got lucky on this, where he catches Bertuzzi, he just grazes him on a check. It shouldn't have been a penalty in my books, honestly. Anyways, I'm just saying we got lucky twice in one game last night. Like we've had some good fortune with the whistle, which isn't usually the case
So
for us.
now, on to that point, getting fortuitous,
Yeah,
whistle calls,
yeah.
that will lead us now into just what's been just absolutely brutal power play. Like I've
Brian,
never
have you caught
seen.
any of our power play at all? Have you seen
Oh, it's
anything
garbage.
about this? Yeah. Did
It's like
you see
4%.
did you see the 4 minute power play last night by chance?
The double minor.
Yeah.
I saw the second half of it.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
That's
it
probably the
was
best part of it. Like
awful, right?
like it
And even
started
that
off
like
brutal.
wasn't good still. It was like
I
one or two chances in there.
I don't know what's wrong with your power play. You guys have the pieces.
we can have this
There's
talk for another 40 minutes, to be honest. But
I know
like,
your theory about you need a fifth like cannon or whatever, but
Yeah.
yeah, it is beyond that though. Like it's zone
I
no,
entry, it's
that's
setting
not
up possession, it's so
I
much stuff.
I love Morgan Riley with all my heart. He has
he's
not
not
been
the
having.
problem. Well, the
No,
main
I
issue.
don't think he's the problem. I don't think he's best suited right now in this current play to play on
The
the
problem
power
is
play one.
there is no
There's
like
no
you can maybe put
replacement though.
McCabe there, but McCabe doesn't
I
hit the
heard
net
McCabe
often
as
enough.
well. But you know what, dude? I would rather them just change it up than just keep beating their
Yeah,
heads
I
against the
I
wall.
also just think it's a systems thing right now where whatever they're being told, they're trying to stick to it so much to a T that it's just had a negative effect. Like I you can see them skating on the ice, thinking it through in their head, like, okay, I stand behind the net, I wait for the pass, I
Yeah.
swoop left, Riley
Drop
comes up. I
pass.
make the drop pass. I have to cross the red line. I have to look one way, then the other way, and then I got to drop it off to JT. And JT saying, "I can't move my feet. I either dump it or pass." Like they don't have enough options. They have to let the play come to them naturally.
The biggest thing for me is that if you look, when you look at Edmonton's power play, it looks so natural. They look so in their own
Yeah,
space, and then
Yeah.
when you watch your power play, it's like there's
It's like
bricks attached to
watching
their skates.
robots.
yeah. I do
That's
think it's a Guy Boucher thing in part because listen, this is just like my interjection, like opinion, but like Boucher is like the detailed systems guy. We know
he
that
is the
he's
robot.
Mister like
Yeah.
just the trap, right? And
Mhm.
I can just picture Guy Boucher being like, you have to do this and that and that, and right? I can just see it. I think they're just getting like systems overload in their head right now, and they just need a mental reset. I don't
Your
know if it's too late for that, but
your power play one is talented enough to where you just tell them just do your thing.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
They
to a
should
certain
be.
extent, they need that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
well, there was a sequence on the double minor last night where Willie tried to enter the zone on his own. I think he tried to take a little bit of power into his own hands and saying, "Screw the system, I'm gonna enter the zone." But Riley is so caught up in the system that he ends up offside because he's just expecting this is how it's supposed to work out. It has to be like he's gonna stick
Yeah.
to the system, and it didn't. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm tired of power play talk. I'm either going to call it the power kill, which I know is like a common way to call a crappy power play, or I'm either going to call it
You're
that or the hit the showers play. I don't know. The
you're
shower play
better
is
Uh,
off
a good
I like
you're
the
call.
better off
power
playing
kill, man.
5 you're better off playing with 5v5 strategies
Dude,
on your
Yeah,
power
well,
play.
dude, we got so much momentum off of the penalty kill that came just after that. Like, thank God the crowd stuck with it because they could have easily checked out after that double minor. Like, they
yeah,
had no reason to not to. So,
that
um,
was brutal.
yeah. I have a question for you guys on Jim Montgomery, your opinions on him. And I guess for Dave, when you're comparing him to some of the more recent coaches we've faced off against in playoff series, Paul Maurice and John Cooper, he's a different kind of guy. Like
He definitely gives
uh,
more of an answer, I'll tell you that. Oh well,
He's
I
open.
mean,
he
I
gives
mean,
you a
I
more
just said,
straightforward answer,
yeah,
but
I just said that like thinking to Paul Maurice doing doing this like on his
yeah,
so
yeah.
so yeah, I guess.
Paul
But
Maurice talks in
he
riddles. Cooper talks in riddles too. Montgomery
dude,
doesn't talk in
Montgomery
riddles.
just no, he says it straight. And I don't know if you caught it, but he called Pasta out last night. He's like, we
Yeah,
need more from David Pastrnak. And listen,
I can
we've
respect that
been
because like we
we've
don't
been
get
in
that from
tune,
Keith.
dude. We've been in tune with Boston for over the past 10 years, right? Like we've
Yeah.
always kept tabs on Boston. When was the last time a head coach called out one of the star players? So Bergeron, Marchand, Chara, Pastrnak, Krejci. Let's say of those five.
I'm sure it's happened specifically with someone like Marchand. I'm actually sure. I feel confident saying it's happened.
It
I
to
don't.
the public or to himself, like to his face. Like I
I,
think I don't know.
this is just like me guessing here.
Well, if
This is like
we take
yeah.
a step back, it's like Cassidy and Julian. I I can't really see Cassidy doing it, and
No.
I
Cassidy's
can't.
done it though, like in Vegas, right? Like he's done it with Eichel,
But
right?
it's
Like
different.
I think he's done it in Boston.
But what I will say is I can see Cassidy. Sorry, not Cassidy. I can see Julian doing it like early, like the 2010s, 2011s, 2012s. That's when I can see it. Just off the top of my head, but
Yeah, I just think with Monty, it's two sides because I think he's done a good job of acclimating himself to like the Bruins culture because it
Mhm.
feels like a continuation of those past two coaches, right? Like Julian passing the torch to Cassie, passing the torch to Montgomery, even though they have nothing to do with any of each other. Like it does feel a continuation of that team, but it also feels like he's kind of gotten away from Bruins culture where him and Marchand have made just such a huge point to not look back on last year, uh, to the point that you know that's exactly what they're doing. And
Yeah.
that's very un-Bruin like. So it's been weird to see a coach kind of think in those terms. Because yeah, I think we would just somehow Montgomery strikes less fear into my heart than Paul Maurice and John Cooper did. Like I had just an absolute hate for both of those guys, a respectful hate. And with Montgomery, he's someone who I entered the series with a lot of respect for being a really good coach, especially after like the regular season last year. But he's kind of like fallen for me a bit just from getting a closer look at him and what he's had to say. So I think that was interesting there. Guys, there's a game 7. We haven't really looked forward at all as to what the hell happens here. We only have a couple minutes. Maybe we go on break here early and then jump back and talk some more game 7.
You could
We
do
do
that.
Okay, as I mentioned before the break, we have a game 7 that we haven't really talked about or looked forward to yet. So setting the scene here, we've got two teams who have kind of been fairly cursed when it comes to game 7s in recent memory. On the Leafs side of things, going back a decade, like we said, losing game 7 to the Boston Bruins 2013 after being up 4-1. Yada, yada, yada. It was 4-1, blah, blah, blah. They then proceeded to lose in game 7, the Boston Bruins 2 more times, 2018 and 2019. Then lost in a game 5 decider against the Blue Jackets in the play-in series, a game 7 decider against the Montreal Canadiens, another game 7 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, before finally winning a series in 6 games last year against the Lightning. In the Bruins case, in that 2013 series, despite winning it, they dropped a 3-1 series lead. Let the Leafs get back into it, tie it 3-3. In 2019, they did the exact same thing. Last year, they were up 3-1 against the Florida Panthers during their record-breaking season, the Bruins' record-breaking season, where they were quite literally the best team of all time, over 82 games, and lost that series in 7. And they obviously have let go of their 3-1 series lead here again. So you've got two teams with lots of historical pressure on them going into game 7. Who has more pressure on them going into game 7?
Still the Leafs. Let's
Nope.
not beat around the bush here. Listen,
I disagree.
listen.
Yeah,
I
would usually agree with the Leafs, but anyways, make your point.
I still think, regardless, the Leafs just have more pressure because it's the Leafs. They've never done it. Like, I know, okay, Boston has like collapsed. The Leafs have never won a game 7. Like, it's not like we could be like, but they've done it before. No, they haven't. They won a playoff series last year, which is great. They still haven't like finished slaying the demon. This is the demon right now. We talked about
last
it
year was
last
the
year.
Dragon. Here's the demon. Yeah.
We talked about demons last year. And they slayed demons last year. Let's call it what it is. They had an incompetency or something, a mental block blocking them from getting to the second round. And then they did it. They overcame it. But they still haven't done this this is the specific demon that we always talk about. Game 7, TD Garden against Boston, against the Bruins, right? Like, that is, for all intents and purposes, it is still, the ball is still in the Leafs' corner here.
Whatever demon this is, this demon has a demon. Like, that's how big of a demon this is.
Yeah,
yeah. Like, you're right. This is the boogeyman's boogeyman.
Yeah, I will. It does give me some nice, I don't know, reprieve, I guess you could say, to know that it's not all sunshine and roses in Boston. Like, for all that I just said, it does feel like a different Boston atmosphere. Because like you said, they did this exact same script happened in 2018 and 2013 and 2018. I don't remember for a single second it being, oh, can Boston, can they actually like lose it? Like it was always like, how are the Leafs going to overcome this hill? It was never, how are the Bruins going to overcome this hill? Which now it kind of feels like both teams are climbing up the hill. Instead of Boston kind of starting at the top and working their way down and just beating the crap out of the Leafs, it kind of feels like it's a race to the top right now.
Yeah. Thank you for the correction. 2018 is when the Leafs made their 3-1 comeback, right? Because 2019 we had the 3-2 lead, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh,
Easter
yeah,
Sunday.
yeah.
I'll
It
never
all
forget.
months. Easter Sunday, Morgan Riley scores the game one. God, I'm earning first period. God damn
First
it.
period.
God damn
Yeah.
it.
God damn it.
Yeah. So, Brian, what do you think?
I think that the pressure's on the Bruins, if anything. You guys are playing on house money right now. You guys are down 3-1. Your superstar is hurt. He probably will play game 7. Let's be realistic here. But
We'll see.
this
I'm more
is
50-50 on that one than
this loss right here crafts the identity of the Bruins. Are they just 3-1 choke job artists? It's happened
No, because
once.
there's still one more. Like their identity remains somewhat intact if they win Game 7,
But
right?
that's the thing. They're playing with
Yeah.
that in their mind. You talk about last season, how they don't want to like that still rings a sore spot for them, and they don't even want to think about it. But if they lose this, it's the same story all over again. The only difference is it's just Marchand facing it now, in the sense that the original Krejci and Bergeron guys aren't there anymore. I think
Yeah.
this is also going to be a testament to the leadership of the Bruins, if that leadership is still there or not, if the identity of the Bruins that everybody's been scared about for the past 10 years is still present. But it's being challenged. And the team that's challenging it is not the same Leafs team that lost in 19. It's not the same Leafs team that lost in 18. It's not the same Leafs team that lost in
13.
2013? 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a brand new face. It's also 2 goalies that the Bruins have that have never gotten out of the first round. Let's make that clear. They've never won an elimination game either.
Yeah.
I think they're both if a combined record's 0-6 or something like that. If you take Swayman and Olmark's record. Pressure's on. And all you guys have to do is just show up on that one day, and you can quite literally taint the Bruins' legacy for the past 5-6 years. Think about how sweet that would be.
So now I have a question for for the resident Leaf fan and for the non-resident Leaf fan. How does this change the narrative? Should Toronto win? How does this change the narrative between the Leafs Bruins? You know what I mean? Just because it has been the boogeyman for 10 years. Like that,
it's the same narrative that it's hard to say. I was gonna say it's the same narrative as the Capitals being the Penguins, but we went on to win the Cup that year.
That's the exact yeah. The Bruins haven't won the Cup like in this decade. Theirs goes back a little bit earlier than that. So the Leafs would have to make their own like Stanley Cup final run, at least, is what I kind of think you need here.
At least a conference finals run here. Like
this would be the equivalent of the Canucks beating Chicago in 2011.
Yeah,
that's what it would be.
That's a good show.
If you guys get swept by Florida, which is a likely outcome.
Hey. We'll get there when we get
Let's
there.
get there.
We'll get there when we get there, okay?
We'll talk about that one on Sunday.
Yeah. There's been there's been tons of like TV series about like sports teams like The Last Dance and all that kind of stuff. I had a thought late last night about like the incredible story you could tell of not just the Leafs, not just the Bruins, but like both of them together. God forbid the Leafs do like a conference final or Stanley Cup run at some point during this. Like you could just tell a great story about how this Bruins core came to be, the collision course with that crappy Leafs core, the revival of the Leafs with this era. Like you could do a lot with that. I just think there's something like you could do really good TV with.
for the most part, across the past 10 years, both franchises have been intertwined with each other, whether you want to admit it or not. Maybe a close second for both of them is the Lightning, but I would say for the most part, like has Boston played any other team more times now, with this being the fourth time playing each other since 2013?
Yeah,
Well, since
Like
division realignment,
the
like you guys have
Canes,
been neck and
maybe.
neck.
yeah.
Hmm.
If you go back to 2013, it being four times, maybe. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but like I just from a the drama of each series, right? Because none of those like Lightning and the Hurricane series, like those ones, actually there was a couple that went to Game 7, but every single one has gone to Game 7. The drama within each series is unmatched,
Yeah,
unmatched. So
100%.
yeah, okay. What does the Leafs blueprint look like for a Game 7 win? Is it really just as simple as just play the exact same game you've been playing the past two? They've been able to do it 2 games in a row. Is it sustainable enough to do for a third time?
I think it has to be sustainable. Like
Yeah.
it has to be enough to at
Like
least
we're
get
giving up on the
into.
power play, right? Like we cannot rely on that to change. Like you're gonna have to win
Here's
without the
here's
power
the
play.
thing. The only thing that gives me pause on the power play is that it's Game 7. We already saw it in Game 6, and to an extent started in Game 5, where there is starting to be less and less power play time, which works in the Leafs' favor on both ends, because the power play, like we said, is awful. And I'll give them credit for last night. The penalty kill looked pretty good. It staved off, all chances. Like for the I genuinely, I think if the Bruins had two power plays, did they get a single shot on the power play?
I think they got a shot. Yeah.
Maybe one. So what does that say? Like at the very
Yeah.
least, penalty kill was great last night. But both of those things do not work in the Leafs' favor, right? They they are dead last in power play percentage right now, and dead last in penalty kill percentage. If they're not dead last in penalty kill, they are second last. They were heading into the game. So that gives me good, good vibes, I guess you could say, heading into Game 7, because I would say for the most part, the Leafs 5-on-5 game has probably, I would say, now been better than the Boston Bruins. And if it's not better, they are at the very least neck and neck. They're like
I think
51
you're good to say it's
49.
been better. Like I think even Bruins fans would agree with you that Leafs have looked better at
Yeah,
5-on-5, 100%.
and it's not like by a wide margin either. It is very, very narrow margin, but I still think that the Leafs take it out. Like I said it last episode, I think it was like a 51-49, and that's when they were down 3-1 in the series, when we were digging their grave.
Yeah.
Now this looks like a completely rejuvenated Leafs team for the most part. Brad, did you have something to
They look
say?
like yeah.
I had Toronto to win in to beat Boston, like going into the bracket.
Do
But
you have any a game
I had it
number
in a
on that
six.
one?
I had it in a 6. So
I
I
had
was
it in
wrong
six
as soon as
too.
you guys
I'm
went
not
down.
gonna lie.
I
Yeah.
had Leafs in 7.
Wow.
But
So
I don't think there's a blueprint for this game. I just think it's the exact same thing. Like you have to go in with the same mentality Nylander has in the past 2 games. Just do
yeah.
it. Just
Yeah.
win. Figure it out.
Just go F and play
Just
some
go.
hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so two things. Last two things I think. This team has basically like played like New York Islanders hockey the past 3 games. It's kind of what
Yeah.
it's looked like, or 2 games. Yeah, like they went from skill scoring, second highest scoring team in the regular season to somehow come to the realization, oh, for whatever reason, we cannot score. And this decor is by no means anything special. Um, and I want to give credit to obviously like the players on that decor, but even Keefe for like squeezing every last bit of lemon juice out of them, because this decor has no business being as structurally sound and just not giving the puck away.
Yeah.
They really haven't.
And
They've taken such great care of the puck.
yeah, structurally sound. Like their decision making, I think, has been
Mm-hmm.
very, very good over the past 2 games. I think very rarely, maybe like the only two that honestly stand out for me that aren't are like that haven't been like wise decision makers have been Riley and Timothy Liljegren. Like they've kind of turned.
Liljegren scares me like
Yeah, I
incredibly.
listen.
I'm still not that he's not been good.
I
He had a good game
I
last
don't
night,
think he's
but
been bad, but he's made more boneheaded plays, and I think that's just because
He's
he's gotten more touches of the puck. I think that
he's
just
the worst
comes
of your
like
six.
just
who
quantity, yeah.
Liljegren or
Like
Riley.
Liljegren.
Oh
Liljegren.
yeah, and which is I don't care if he's the worst of the six because I think heading in he was probably the sixth. Like that's how he was looked at. Unfortunately or unfortunately, that is how he is still looked at. And if he's been the worst of the six, that's probably been a lot better than decors that we've had in
I
years past.
I don't say that as a slight to him. I say it as a Edmondson's been fantastic for you guys. I don't know how you guys made
Four
that
Love
there's
work.
him. I've loved
four
him.
guys on that decor. McCabe, Benoit, Edmondson, and Labushkin, who,
Yo, the Labushkin Renaissance has been real.
dude, all
It's
of them.
been really good.
Tell me
He
who I'm
turns
talking
so
Yeah.
about. Tell me who I'm talking about here. Structurally sound, good with their stick, beat the living shit out of people in corners. Who am I talking about?
Yeah.
I'm
You
talking
talk
about
about
all
all four
four
of
of
them.
them, right?
Hmm.
That is their game plan. They don't need to be as mobile as other people, which is fine. It did scare me for the first like 3 games of the series because I was like, man, if the Bruins take them at speed, game over. They're getting cooked, but they haven't been. They've been structurally sound enough where the Bruins have just not even been able to put the acceleration on for the most part.
Yeah.
So hats off. Yeah, if it's let's give our credit to the players. I'll also give my credit, like you said, to Sheldon Keefe. He always kind of seems to do that though. Like even last year
Yes. Yes.
against Tampa, I would say especially, he was squeezing blood. I would say even he was squeezing blood out of Justin Hall. I thought Justin Hall was fine for and that was a lot better than you could say about him for 82 games in the regular season.
Yeah.
Um,
We also didn't get the best of McCabe last year. Brody started to fall in the playoffs.
Giordano
It
too.
was Riley, it was Shen, and it
Yeah.
was a bunch of guys. Right? Because
but
even
now
then
you
you
guys
were putting in Gustafson or Liljegren, like they were rotating. It was
Mhm.
yeah.
talk about the
We have
success you guys have had with Luke Shen last year. You guys have like three of them now in
no, it's
Benoit,
been great.
Edmondson, and Labushkin.
Labushkin, like I
He's
said, the renaissance has been real because I was not happy with that acquisition before I even saw him play a game this year for the Leafs.
Mhm.
And then even when he did, he was handling the puck like a grenade. We've seen a totally different guy in the playoffs. He takes care of the puck. He makes simple decisions. And he just, yeah, he doesn't play a complicated game. So definitely lots of kudos to him. It does suck that I feel like there's no matter what this postseason, we're gonna have one defenseman that Keefe and the fan base doesn't trust because whether it's Liljegren, Brody, I think Giordano, this wouldn't be the series for him, and I don't know what the series for him looks like because you definitely need to be able to come out of the corners with pucks. That's been
I
one of the successes of this decor.
like Geo doesn't draw in game 7. I think Geo draws in when two guys go down. It got
Yeah,
dude, if
yeah,
we make a run and we're in the conference finals and you need to call upon him, I know Geo will do the work. I'm confident in that.
is he
But
day to day
let's
right now?
no,
no,
he's sure.
he's down there on the
Old.
depth chart, right? It's Liljegren, Brody, Gio's
Oh,
behind both of them, and then I guess like the next guy would be Timmins. This is once again, this is like just thinking way too far ahead. You know who I could just see like based off of everything we've heard of him, this just play style looks like it was meant for like everything we've heard about Cade Weber. I don't know if Brian you
Yeah.
even know who Cade Weber is. Is a college defenseman we just signed. He led the NCAA in blocks. He won Defensive Player of the Year.
Was he on
And yeah, it
Quinnipiac?
sounds. I don't
no,
think
he
it
was
was
on BU.
Quinnipiac because that was Jacob Quillen. Yeah, that was Jacob Quillen. That was
Oh,
Quinnipiac.
okay.
But yeah, anyways, Cade Weber, it basically sounds like this is how he plays. He's
Brian,
gonna play like an Edmondson, a
all
Benoit, a
all you
Labushkin.
need to know, guys, 6'6", like
Yeah,
230 pounds.
and his last name is Weber. Those are pretty good as defensemen. So yeah, that's I just once again like my mind should not be on Cade Weber in like the middle of a playoff series, but that's the thought that came to my mind. Okay, I have
Yeah.
a couple just interesting stats before we go here.
Mhm.
Um, Do you have any guesses on who leads the series in both expected goals and just want to confirm this other one I had here. Yeah. So in expected goals and then a combination of high danger and medium danger shot attempts. So basically, who's been getting to the dirty areas of the ice and who should have way more goals than they do.
So I'm gonna go off a limb and say that
This is
it's
in the entire series. So this is
okay.
Bruins or Leafs. Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's a Leafs defenseman.
Not a defenseman, but a Leafs
Okay, so
player.
it's a Leaf. Okay. Because my guess was honestly going to be Lyubushkin because I know he's
got 3 assists, but
yeah, I guess he just hasn't put the puck on net. I guess.
yeah,
Is it like Max Domi?
no,
It
it is
John Beecher.
No. Well, that's so John Beecher leads the Bruins in um high danger shot attempts.
That's
Okay,
crazy
he's
because
got
I think
4.
me and you were talking shit about John Beecher before the series started.
No,
Christian.
no,
I'm a
I
Beecher fan.
like John. Yeah, and I like John Beecher too. Like I because to me like Beecher is like Trent Frederick light to me.
Yeah.
Like he's that type
He's
of
a
guy.
Bruin.
I hate yes, and I knew that from the moment they drafted him because I remember like looking at Beecher before he was drafted, and then I saw the Bruins got him. I'm like,
Is he a first
how did I
rounder?
not see that coming? No, I think
John
he was.
Beecher.
I think he was second rounder.
Oh,
John
He
Beecher
might have been
is
like a
no
31st pick or something.
He's a first rounder. He was on that Jack Hughes 2019 Caulfield team.
really?
Let's find out.
Yeah, he was
He's
like
a
the worst
US
player on that team.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
tell he's probably
So-
the worst player on that team, but I mean, he definitely gets the job done. He gets something done for him to be on the
30th
team.
30th
right?
overall. 30th overall.
Yeah.
So first rounder. Okay. Anyways, so I think they got him with that pick. That would have been when they made the Cup Finals against St. Louis. That was that pick. Anyways,
Just a quick thing on
Yeah.
John Beecher, real quickly. Look who's in the playoffs on that team, and look who isn't. Caulfield, and who'd you say it was? Caulfield
Jack
and
Hughes.
Jack Hughes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Who was
You're
the
not
right
wrong
pick
about
there?
that one.
Yeah.
Who was the right pick?
Okay. So
You're not wrong.
back to the stat here.
Okay.
John Tavares, his expected goals
Really?
is 5. He is expected to have 5 goals in the series. Second on the Leafs is Austin Matthews, who hasn't played the past few games at 2.5. Bertuzzi at 2.1. On the Bruins side,
Bert has had so many chances where the puck's literally been in his skates.
that's the regular season Bert.
That
though,
is
too,
Bert,
right? Like
though,
that's
yeah.
that's
That's
Bert.
just
That's Bert in
Bert.
a nutshell. And then on the Bruins side, their leader in expected goals is Charlie Coyle at 2.7. So
Yeah, I'm
Tavares
not
is nearly
surprised there.
doubling up Charlie Coyle. And then on the high danger and medium danger attempts, he's got 7 high danger attempts. So 7 is the most on the Leafs. Second is Austin Matthews with 3, Bert with 2, bunch of guys with 2 actually. But on the Bruins side, it's Beecher who leads them with 4. So Tavares very quietly has been in all the right spots.
So
and he should have more goals than
I did
got.
want to bring this up before when we were like looking ahead. One guy on this Leaf team has shown up in maybe not shown up every like on the stat sheet every time, but at the very least, like just works his behind off every single time. John Tavares, dude. I think he had 8 hits last night? 7 hits, 8 hits, something like that.
You
wants
just
it so
reminded me
bad.
of another hit. Yeah, you reminded me of another stat I wanted to bring.
Okay.
Yeah, just hits
John
in general.
Tavares, in the past like 2 elimination games, he hasn't been fantastic by any stretch of the imagination. But when he has been needed to like step up, John Tavares will. So to that
We can at
point,
least say he's an overtime player, right? Like
yeah, to that extent,
yeah.
should this game 7 end up going to overtime, I'm looking to JT to just kind of take the team on his back and take it through basically.
The one-handed play he made on the game 5 goal that ended up being nice in front of the net. Like
Joti winner,
yeah, that was just I was honestly screaming at my TV like, JT, what are you doing? Like it just looked like that was going nowhere. And even the Nyes and JT connection last year against Tampa
game
in
6,
overtime, right?
That looked like a
felt
nothing play, dude. Yeah.
And
But
so he
sometimes
makes something out of nothing. a
I was
lot.
just about to say that is if John Tavares goes down for one thing, he is the little thing king. That guy will somehow like always come up with a play. Okay, maybe not every time, but like 8 out of 10 times, that guy's coming up with a play when it looks like there's nothing there. And that's
Yeah.
probably the best thing you could say about him. Because those types of plays end up winning you
Yeah.
games and series, right?
And that like he did it as a New York Islander against the Florida Panthers in
Yeah.
overtime. Like
Dude,
this is a track record.
even that goal, like if you go back and
Yeah.
watch it, like it kind of comes out
And
of nowhere.
even he's got the clutch gene going back to like his junior days, right? Like so
Yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
followed him around. Which yeah, we definitely might need here. Okay, so other side I wanted to bring up hits, like you mentioned. Who the two players with the most hits in this series are both Leafs. John Tavares is one of them. I'll give you that because we alluded to him. The other one, any ideas? Leads the
It's
series in hits.
Edmonton.
He's
I'm
up
gonna
there,
say
but no.
Simone Benoit.
It is Simone Benoit. That one's not. I know that was not a
I'm not
surprise.
that
Tavares is definitely
surprised.
more
Yeah.
the surprise there. But 31 hits for Benoit, 21 for Tavares.
Do
Leads the series. McAvoy with 28 on the Bruins side to lead them.
do you guys
So
know who the top four teams like team hit like
yes,
do you know who
I
they
know
are?
the top
That's
three. I
oh
know
well,
the
I know
top
the
three.
top.
Is four also the other Atlantic team that I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
Brian, you want to
I
guess
don't
this?
understand what the question is.
okay, so
Who
the
leads the
teams
NHL? Who are the top four
yeah,
teams in hits this year in the NHL?
in the playoffs.
Um,
Oh, in the
well,
It's
playoffs.
only
in the
playoffs,
playoffs,
yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Leafs, Bruins, Cats, and Vegas. I don't know
You got 3 out of 4 right. The other one
which
is
is
the
the wrong one.
Lightning. The Vegas. I think
Vegas
Vegas
is
is like 5 or 6, but it's literally Leafs, Bruins, Cats, Bolts. Crazy.
Okay, I'm gonna do you one better though, because see, you brought up a stat that I thought was different here. Okay, so
You're saying
top three
in the
teams, the regular season, top three
yeah,
teams in hits. Florida Panthers number one, Leafs number
Leafs number
two,
2.
Bruins number three.
That's so
So and then
bizarre. That's so
four is the Canucks. Yeah,
the
but
Canucks had the fourth amount. That's more surprising than 4 Atlantic teams like leading the playoffs and 3 Atlantic
Nashville at
teams leading.
five.
Okay, that's
Right.
not as
Yeah,
surprising to me. If you had said Nashville
yeah,
was
Let's
4 and the Canucks were like 20th, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm
yeah,
very
yeah.
surprised that the
Okay,
Canucks are that high.
lots of random stats there.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's wrap it up with some predictions here. If we can,
I'll
Dave, what was our predictions? Me and Brian were pretty close last night, but then me and Dave, it was for game five. I guess like 5-3. I don't remember what you guys, Dave. Not that it matters,
I
but
I
I was like
literally
Leafs are gonna
I
win
literally
five
don't
three, and the
remember.
power play. Yeah, I was like Leafs are winning 5-3, and they still don't score in the power play.
I
Obviously,
predicted that the Leafs
I
were
got
going to
one of
score a
those
power
things
play
right.
goal in game 5. I guess I was wrong.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
do I
I
I'll
feel
I
like
really don't
we
I'm going to
okay,
have to
okay,
back
yeah.
the
Let's hear
Leafs. Like
Brian. Yeah, yeah. No, we
I'm gonna
can't.
go
I'll,
back.
Not
I'll
even an
even
option.
I'll even give you 2 MVP players for both teams. The two
Go.
standout
Yeah.
players for either team will be a 2017 World Juniors reunion, Joseph Woll and Charlie McAvoy. I will also say
Yeah.
that Joseph Woll plays lights out and the Leafs will win 3-1 with an empty net goal.
Yeah. I'll go next here.
Go.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of like Charlie McAvoy to score in Game 7. His noise has just. I mean, his name has just been mentioned more and more as the series goes on. Like
He's the best player
29
on the
minutes
Bruins
in
team,
game 5.
Sorry.
He had
He's the
29
best
minutes in
Bruins
game
player right now.
5.
Yeah, 29
29?
minutes.
29
Yeah.
minutes in game 5. And that was a game that went to overtime for 3.5 minutes. So it's not
Yeah.
like he played 29
Yeah.
with a full overtime. Like, dude, it was like he was going in with basically
Yeah.
29 minutes.
He's by far the best Bruin this series, I think.
I'm gonna say 1-0 overtime. I think we laid out the answer. I think it's John Tavares from Matthew Nyes
God
again
damn
in
it.
overtime,
Dude,
right?
you took my answer. I was going to say 2-1, though.
Sorry. That's yeah, okay. 2-1 for the third game in a row.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a 2-1 final. I think it's the Leafs. I think JT's gonna get the OT winner, and I'm looking for a Tyler Bertuzzi. I think Tyler Bertuzzi is gonna open up the scoring in
Okay.
Boston.
Yeah.
Like
It's a
I
bold
think he's
take.
no,
I will amend my
maybe.
prediction to flip it. Instead of Tavares from Knies for the second year in a row, second time this series, I'll say it's Knies from Tavares.
Nice from Tavares.
Yeah. Again, I know it's already happened this series, but
So
whatever.
if
Morgan Riley would be my okay, but I chose 1-0, so never mind. That's it.
So if Toronto loses, what's the plan for us?
Jesus Christ, we're going back to the second post-mortem in a week.
Because
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
because
I think
what did we do
regularly
last year?
scheduled. Well, we did. Well,
Oh
last
yeah,
year
we went
did,
to a week. Okay, right. That makes sense.
No, after
Yeah, I would
last
probably
year
just do that.
we did like 40 minutes after every game, but we missed the first 3 due to like other circumstances, so we couldn't do
Right.
that, right? But this is
Yeah.
like second best option. So I think regardless, we're
Once a
gonna have
week.
to like regularly scheduled programming back on Sunday. I think regardless.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then probably going forward,
Regular
we'll see.
schedule.
We'll see how that series plays out, and we could like decide from there. But I mean, I'm excited. I'm already nervous. Like I already feel it in my
Guys
stomach.
shaking?
I said it. No, I'm no. But I do feel it in my stomach though. I said it wasn't
I'm
gonna
not,
be
I'm not
nervous
shaking.
last
It's
night.
very like it's a fun excitement, right? Like it's fun
Yeah.
nerves right
I'm
now.
anticipating
Yeah.
it. Like I think regardless, it should be just a great game. Like that's you're telling me game
All
7.
the neutrals are tuning in. Like
Yeah.
there's the entire
100%.
hockey world's tuning in.
So everybody's tuning in to clown. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Though.
Oh,
And
there's
it's
gonna
not
be a
real
clown
winner
at the
of
end
the
of the
series.
night. Yeah.
The real winner of the series is the memes, right? Because no matter what the
Yes.
result is, the memes will be legendary.
Yes.
So, yeah.
All right, close it off, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Shout out to Razor. Shout out to NHLShop.ca, where you can get a whoever scores the game-winning goal, Game 7 jersey. Shout out to Fubo. And yeah, we'll see you guys no matter the result of Game 7. I guess that's everything. Yeah.